Hey, welcome to Between Views. I'm your host, Alec Koski. This podcast aims to cast light on inspirational people, identify them as potential mentors in the journey, and share their wisdom with the world. In this episode, we go live on Zoom all the way to New York with the incredible filmmaker, Miguel Binnios. We hope you enjoy. All right, welcome to Between Views. This is our first ever online episode. We're going from Zoom. Here today we have Miguel Binnios, a very dear friend of mine from the camp in the States. We met there going back a few years now. And the reason that we have Miguel on the show today is because I was just completely intrigued by his YouTube journey. And I think that what he's going after is sometimes an ideal for a lot of people, but I think a lot of people don't really realize the realities of going on to something like that and how much time and effort actually goes into it. So I just thought that we'd have this meeting and talk about the realities of your journey. And would love to dive into your passion, Miguel, and talk about why you love this so much and why you're doing it. So the thing that you're going for at the moment is a 40-day YouTube challenge. And I believe you're about 20, 25, 26 days in at the moment, roughly.
20,
and
23 or 4, yeah.
23 or 4, getting up there.
Yeah.
So I guess let's just start. Let's open with that. Let's open with, let's ask a different question. Why are you so passionate about this project?
So I've always really in love with telling stories. Ever since I was a kid, I would always be fascinated by like cameras. I actually have like footage of this. Like when I would go on trips with my parents, I would like steal their cameras and like play with it and like ask them how it works. So I've always like been fascinated about telling visual stories. And for a few years ago, 3-4 years ago, I found YouTube. I found this medium of storytelling, and I think the thing that got me really into it and made me fall in love with it is because you have full control of the whole thing. You write the videos, you produce the videos, you direct the videos, you edit the videos, and you post the videos.
Mm-hmm.
And while for some people that can be like hell, for me, I strive when I'm doing that, when I have full control of all parts of the process, as opposed to, for example, when you're doing you're in the traditional film set, when there's the director of photography, there's the editor, there's the producer, there's the assistant director, all these different hands contributing for the same project, but your hands is just 2 out of the 100.
Sure.
And
I feel like it would have like
yeah,
a really big impact on your creative process when there's other people involved. Because I know from experience that when you try and include other people in your goal setting, for example, they're typically the goals that work out the least. So I feel like it must be
yeah,
similar in film in a way, like your film must not really work out the way you like it when you have to kind of please other people as well.
100%, 100%. Yeah, that's why, again, it's tricky. It's tricky when you work in a creative field and you're trying to create something, and again, you have this vision, and then you have all these people next to you helping you bring that vision to life, but they're not you, so they won't be able to um to showcase the exact same vision you have in your head, regardless of how much time you devote to like telling them about it and explaining it to them. It's
Yeah.
hard.
I feel like one thing that would be really useful to have an extra person for would be actually just like holding or placing the camera. I was watching one of your videos just then, the one where you moved to places in New York. And I just was thinking about how many times you would have to place the camera first before going back and sitting down or walking somewhere. I feel like your step count must be pretty high on your iPhone these days.
Yeah, it's actually insane. I think the video you're referring to is moving apartments in New York City or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, when I got to New York City in the fall, in September, I stayed in Airbnb for a month, and then after that, I moved into an apartment, and then I made the whole move by myself, and I wanted to document it. So it was me, the 2 huge suitcases, like a tote bag and like a backpack, and then my huge tripod, going in a
Which
subway train.
broke. I saw that it broke.
It broke. Yes. And I had to like bring it back to Best Buy, try to get it changed, and successfully it happened. Like I was able to get it refurbished, and I got a new one. But anyway, like I said, it's a lot of like walking up, setting up the tripod, going back, pretending like it's the first time that you're walking into the shot, and then you walk cross frame, and then you go back, grab the tripod. It's really, you have to really be passionate about, again, the process of producing the story, or else it can be a lot. Yeah.
Got you. So step one is obviously have an interest in it, be very passionate about it, because you don't realize how much walking is involved back and forth. And it's kind of interesting, like because you've had to go and set that shot up. In many ways, you're still doing what you're doing, but you're also the actor as well in these stories. When it's kind of like a vlogging situation, you're also the actor. So not only are you producing the film, but you need to be on your game, being you, right?
Yeah, it's again for this YouTube game, like I said, you're all of it. You're the camera guy, you're the actor, you're producing. Like when I'm making these videos, like it's like I go back and forth between like different mindsets. Like for example, when I leave my apartment, I'm in the mentality of the camera guy. Okay, do I have all my gear I need? All the camera, all the lenses? Do I have the tripod? Um, and then when I'm leaving the apartment, I'm looking at the time, and I switch to the mindset of a producer. Okay, how much time do I have? Is it going to be enough time for me to get to the apartment, considering the time it's going to take me to get in the subways? And then I look up the waiting time for the subways, and then I think about the time it's going to take me to set up the shop, all of it. And then when I'm filming, I switch to the mindset of an actor. Okay, camera setup. I mean, if camera, what I need to do, what I need to say in the most effective way possible, in the fastest way possible, so I can move on to the next thing. So again, it's this constant mindset switching that you need to go through, and it can be a little bit stressful. But again, when you have the passion just takes over the whole stressful part, and it becomes this really really fun thing to do. So
Yeah. I feel like whenever I'm passionately involved with something, I kind of forget about the time and just get kind of really deep into the project. And before you know it, it's the end of the day and your product is there, or sometimes not there. But um, it just seems like time flies once you're doing something that you really love. I want
mm-hmm.
to ask you, so you've been doing this for 23, 24 days, and then obviously a lot more before this, heaps more filmmaking and things like that before this, because Miguel is actually the filmmaker at our camp. And, that's starting to open some really cool opportunities for him. But Miguel, I was just wondering if you would be able to take our listeners through your like what's this process been like from start to finish so far? What's been your like reflections on how it's going, and what's something that like maybe really helps you to achieve it?
We're talking about the 40-day
The 40
series or
day
the
the 40-day series, just to start. Yeah.
okay. So my reflections on it. I mean, I started this whole project as a way to force myself to put videos out there, because leading up to the beginning of this series, I had this passion for a couple of years, but for a lot of time I would let resistance or like procrastination or like this voice inside of me thinking that the videos need to be perfect. I would let all those things stop me from putting out these videos and producing and telling these like visual stories. So the mindset that I was going in the series was like, okay, if I force myself 40-day series, 40 videos, I have no excuse. I have no time to overthink these videos, and I have no time for resistance and I can't, because I need to put something out every single day.
Mm.
And I started out really well. I did 12 days in a row back to back, because again, that was the whole purpose, like a video every day. And then it got really hard.
Yeah.
Um,
At 12
because
days.
yeah, after 12 days in a row, I was having around like 4 hours sleep every night, because as much as I kept telling myself, okay, videos don't need to be perfect, videos don't need to be perfect, there's a side of me that won't allow my videos to be just like anything, you know?
Yeah.
So I would still put in like at least like 4 or 5 hours of editing every night into
Wow.
these videos. Yeah.
So you're
So
sacrificing
slowly,
your sleep.
yeah, it's what you need to do. And what happened around day 12, 13, 14, it was every three or four videos, one of them was getting like decent traction, like for the size of my channel. Meaning, in other words, like a couple of videos got like um 2,000, 3,000 views.
Mm.
Um, which for my channel, like I'm really happy when that happens.
I mean, that's good
Considering
feedback for you, right? Like once you start getting views like that, that's going to motivate you to keep going, right?
100%. There's two sides of it, and that's the whole my whole point of with reflecting about it. When that started to happen, when I started to have a couple of videos who got some traction, number one, yes, I got super motivated and to keep going. But the other side of it, I've actually talked about this in one of my latest videos, was when you have a video or two that do really well, it's really easy for that news like sort of like level of viewership to become your standard and to become your
Mm.
expectation of every
Mm.
video. Um, and that really affected my workflow because then all of a sudden, for every video, for every day that I'm trying to make a video, I'm thinking about the videos that worked, the videos that got the most views. And I'm thinking, okay, in that video, what did I do there? How can I replicate that into today's video to get the same level of viewership, to get the same traction? And that kind of screws you up because all of a sudden it's less about the process, it's less about your passion and more about the views and more about the how can I reach more people. And that's dangerous, and that shouldn't. I mean, who am I to say what should or shouldn't be? But at least for me, it shouldn't. It's not my driving force. It's not what got me going in the beginning.
Mm.
um and so
I,
here my oh, you go, sorry.
I was going to say, I find that very interesting because I remember seeing this YouTuber once. He had like, if you scroll down to the bottom of his profile, he had about 60 different videos of different things. And it wasn't until he actually landed on something. I think it ended up being like backpack reviews or something like that. It got a little traction. And then he just became backpack review guy. You know, he had all these other things he was interested about, but he went after the views instead, which I think must be kind of difficult for you to deal with, trying to figure out whether you just want to stick with doing what you're passionate about, or, you know, obviously monetarily speaking, it's a good thing to get views and followings and things like that, because then what you're doing can become much more your career. You can actually dedicate this time to put your passion in the right place. But I feel like YouTube must have this effect of, I guess, training the producer to create certain content. How do you deal with that?
Oh, 1,000,000%. Like it's absolutely correct what you just said, and I made a video about this too. It's like when, like you said, when you're an artist, when you create art, whether that's videos or paintings or whatever, there's like a ton of music. If you're a music artist, it's really hard to balance that passion. And on the other side of it, you gotta make sure you have money coming in to keep you going. Because if you don't,
Mm,
how do you do it?
yeah.
And the way I found to solve that is to find a balance. Sometimes pursue one thing, which is the passion and stories um that I'm passionate about, and where I'm not worrying about if it's gonna give views or not. But sometimes I'm pursuing the videos where, okay, for the algorithm, it's probably gonna catch, it probably works. Um, so it's really about that, I guess. More than less of like focusing only one thing.
Yeah, this reminds me
You
of
know.
an interview I had just recently. This guy, his whole theory was you need to find the parts of your personality that are marketable. So it's kind of like similar kind of vibe in the way that you now are in this position where you need to find what part of what you're passionate about is the marketable part of you, and then kind of stick with that, right? If you want it to grow and and to succeed, I suppose.
No, 100%. I saw this thing like forever ago. If you're in the content creation world, like there's this like triangle that there's like three like sides of it, obviously.
Points.
It's you got to be creating something that you love, something, gosh, what was it? Something that the world needs and something that can give you profit. When you find something that like hits all those boxes, you're set, you know? And
So it was something that you love, something that the world needs, and something that can give you profit.
yeah, something that brings money, yeah.
And then the
And
center of that is the sweet spot.
it's the sweet spot. But here's the thing, the reality is it's almost impossible to find that sweet spot. So in most cases, people trying to get at least two, to hit at least two boxes.
Yeah.
You know,
This reminds me of when you're trying to pick one single shoe to travel the world with. It's almost impossible to get all the things you need in one place.
right?
There's
Yeah,
just not, it's just not like, I mean, obviously there is a sweet spot. There's definitely a sweet spot, right? Finding it must be the challenge. So, so far, I guess, knowing those three things, what is it that you've landed on? What's your current best angle for approaching your projects at the moment?
I feel like out of the three, like again, sides of the three things, I feel like currently I'm definitely leaning towards the passion one, and then the the one that brings the profit.
Yeah.
Um, because for example, my channel isn't monetized yet. Like for YouTube to pay you to make videos, you need to reach 1,000 subscribers and
Yeah.
400
Which, by
and
the way, you've just done that, right?
I just did that. Yeah, a couple.
Congratulations. How did you feel about that?
It felt great. Yeah, I was really proud of it. Yeah, it was a lot of time and hours went into
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
So, yeah, it was great to finally achieve that. But again,
yeah.
for you to monetize your channel, you're gonna have at least 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of content watched, like 4,000 hours of like people consume your content. And
Yeah.
right now I'm at like 3,600, 3,600, something like
Yeah.
that. And that's in the last 365 days.
Hmm.
It's not like in general. So anyway, with that in mind, like for every video that I'm making, again, I'm thinking about, okay, what kind of video probably has a good chance of working, has a good chance of like reaching people. And that way I would get the hours, and finally I would finally monetize the channel and get paid to make these videos, because up until now I don't.
So what do people like the most?
That's a question that like I don't have the answer. There's a lot of like niches out there, and um my the niche that I'm in, I don't think I'm in specifically any niche, but if you were to try to guess, my niche would be more like lifestyle, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, because obviously, with this series, it's kind of like a vlog where
Vlog,
I'm
yeah.
documenting my life, my thoughts. And yeah, I guess. But there's like, I feel like there's a niche for everyone, for everything, and it's a matter of the creator to decide, hey, here, this is what I love, this is my niche. And
Mm.
whatever you decide that you're going to create, there will be an audience for you, there will be a niche for you.
Yeah.
I really believe that, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I guess that's saying you can just lean into your passion because there's probably other people out there who are going to enjoy that kind of content.
Yeah.
And you're going to be much more engaged in it, right? If you're doing it for the things that you like to film rather than what you think the public might like you to film.
No, I was talking about how it goes back to the balance, right? Of trying to find something that you really love, and something that has a higher chance of like reaching people and working with the algorithm, and finally ultimately paying you money to keep it going. So
Yeah. So um I guess if you're trying to get monetized on YouTube, that's a fairly large journey. Lots of content needs to be up, or you need to have some kind of extreme success with a tiny bit of content. Um, but the subscribers obviously is something that would take a lot more time. So I guess what was your angle on getting more subscribers? Because I think people starting this journey would want to know that kind of thing. Like, if you were giving advice to someone who was starting to do what you're doing now, what would you tell them to do?
I feel like it's like two things. One is learn about like who your favorite creators, who inspires you the most. And the way that you find that is by consuming a lot. When you're a creator, like one of the most important things early on for you to get better is to consume a lot, because
Uh-huh.
that's how you learn. And
Uh,
for me, early on, I spent endless hours, like thousands of hours, like listening to podcasts and watching YouTube videos, interviews about the people that inspire me the most,
yeah.
who are in the YouTube area. Um, so much time went into that, into learning about how the minds of these people work.
Yeah.
So that's number one: consume, learn about who inspires you, and what their why is.
Okay.
And number two is like patience. It's and I say that kind of to me too, because I'm by no means I'm saying that I've figured out or got to the destination of this, because I didn't. But it's patience is like the most important thing um, ever if you're in this place of creating,
Hmm.
because it just takes time. It takes a lot of time for you to find your audience, for the audience to find you, for you to figure out your content, what kind of shots work better with you, what kind of editing works better with you. And yeah, patience, and being patient with the journey. So yeah.
Patient with yourself as well, right?
Yep.
How do
And
you,
this goes without saying. There
so
you
you
go.
go.
No, I was gonna say this goes with everything life. It not only not on YouTube, but yeah.
Course. And I feel like one thing that people are going to come up against early days is like in the beginning of the process, you're not going to have any subscribers. You're not going to have much hours viewed. And the process probably starts, I imagine, really slowly. I bet it's super slow at the beginning, until
Mhm.
you do start to get that traction. Maybe you have some videos that are a bit more of a hit. Um, what would you say on those days where you weren't getting sort of like what you were after? What was your way of dealing with that? Like, how did you go through those movements of just the slow days with not many likes, not many subscribes? How do you tackle that?
I feel like by having this like really almost unreasonable level of self-belief and confidence, because again, when you, like I said, when you're starting out, when you don't have the numbers, something in you needs to make you believe that somehow someone somewhere is going to want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
And again, it needs to be almost like unreasonable how much you have that.
Yeah.
um
So were you just born with that, or did
but
you have to develop that?
I definitely had to develop that.
Yeah.
Starting out, like I remember having days where I would like be all down and out about like how I'm so early in the process, and like I have 7 subscribers. And but I, again, from listening to thousands of podcasts and YouTube videos and interviews about people who have found success,
Yeah.
I learned this from them, this mindset.
So
um
for you, it was really important to follow other people's stories first and watch, I guess, your role models so that you were able to understand what you might be going through at certain times and also to figure out what you wanted, how you wanted to do your own YouTube and I guess what might be useful tools for you.
exactly.
Speaking of tools, what would you say are some useful tools for someone going on this kind of journey? What do you think are your top tools for someone starting their YouTube journey?
You mean like technical tools, or
Yeah,
like
I guess they could
mind?
be tools like that help you technically. Maybe it's your camera equipment, for example, or it could be just interpersonal tools. Like what you said before about self-confidence or anything like that. What do you think has been the most helpful things for you tool wise on this journey? Like, what do you need?
I feel like again, it goes back to, and I don't mean to sound repetitive, but this really is like
No, no,
what I
go ahead.
believe. It's having a clear vision of like what's your passion, what is it that you love, what kind of story would you like to tell with your art, whether that's videos or music or whatever. Um, Having a clear definition of that, and then having a huge level of patience, being patient with the process, and number three, just starting. I feel like in this field, starting is 80% of the process. So
Study is
many people,
80%.
yeah, this is just top of my head, but yeah, like so many
Yeah.
people get so stuck in the first step. They're trying to think, they're trying to see the whole path, of the journey before they take the first step. When in reality, you don't need to see the whole thing. You just need to see where the first step is going to take you. And after you take that first step, then you worry about the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. Um, that was really important for me in the beginning, at least, because I more of the times that I can remember, I found myself in this place where, okay, if I do this, then what? If I make the video, then what? You know, when in reality, you need to figure it out as you go. You know,
Mhm.
as opposed to again having the a whole plan of the whole thing before you take the first step. So
Of course. So what I'm gathering is you spent a lot of time developing your vision and figuring out first what it was that you were passionate about, which is a big topic these days. Like in the times we live in, it's important, especially in Western culture, to figure out what it is you love, what it is you like, and try and turn what you do into, like what you do naturally, into your career almost. I think it's very, very brave that you're taking the time to do this. You've sacrificing a lot of time. You've obviously invested in your own equipment and your own study, mostly time investment by what I'm hearing. It sounds like the big thing for a content creator is investing time in learning and watching and consuming. And then you equally have to do the exact same amount of time starting to produce, and it's slow at the start. But now, do you feel like now, because you've made a major milestone, and do you feel like now you're getting, is that enough of a reward for you to keep going? Like, was hitting that milestone enough feedback for you, like positive feedback to carry on with this? Or is it, what's driving you more? Is it your passion, or is it a mix of the reward of that milestone? Or what's the number one driver these days for you now that you've kind
I
of
feel
reached where
like
you're at?
again, it trying to gather my thoughts.
It's all right.
Um,
Take your time.
it's when you ask me what drives me to keep going, and if hitting the milestone had any effects to this drive, is it didn't, because I have this self-awareness
Hmm.
that it really should be about the process, about the
Yeah.
hustle of you, of the making, and not about, this sounds cheesy, but the destination. It shouldn't be about the destination. Because if the numbers are all you think about, if the numbers are what you're aiming for, when you get there, then what? You know? Um, because there's always gonna be like, okay, my goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers, and you get there. And then your goal is gonna be, oh, now I need to get to 10,000 subscribers. And then you do all the work to get there. And then when you get to 10,000 subscribers, I want to get to a million. And it's this never ending process. And I
Mm.
found that it's not the healthiest, you know?
Mm.
Um, so I found, at least for me, that focus on, okay, how can I feel the most creative fulfilled in a daily basis? when making these videos, regardless of the numbers. Of course, I think about the numbers. I don't want to. I'd be a liar if I said that I don't look at the analytics and the numbers. It's one of those things where everybody does. But you gotta have this constant reminder for of making sure that's not your biggest driving force. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it did. Yeah, I guess it can be very easy to get caught up in the numbers for sure. And that's one of those things. It's like you hear the story over and over again where people chase a certain dollar value in their bank account, and then when they get there, they're like, oh, now what? And they end up just going for the next dollar value, and the process repeats itself. I'm sure that's very satisfying for some people, and obviously having a bit of extra cash is really good. Having extra subscribers is really good for your own process.
Exactly.
But you're right. It's the internal feedback. It's the motivation and just enjoying what you're doing while you do it. That's probably much more important to focus on, which is part of the process, right? Like you said.
Exactly. Is every day, like when I'm thinking about these videos, when I'm starting to set up the tripod, I'm like, I have this subconscious question, like, how can I make this fun? How can I make this, again, creative, fulfilling? Like, what can I do if there was no subscribers at all? Would I still be doing this? You know, all these questions that when you start to ask yourself more and more, you start to realize that that's what it's about, you know, and you start to come up with these solutions as to, again, how to find this driving force, how to keep going.
Yeah. Well, so if there was no subscribers, would you carry on with it?
Probably, yeah. It's definitely a tricky question because, like, in other words, I think a better way to look at it is like if there was no YouTube, if I would still find ways of making little videos, little movies. The answer is absolutely yes, absolutely yes. Whether that's another platform, another social media, or going to traditional filmmaking, which I still have passion for. It's not like I have zero passion for traditional filmmaking and cinema. Ever since I graduated college, I've been reminding myself not to close that door.
Yeah.
Maybe I close it for now for the next couple years of my life since I'm focusing on YouTube. But later on, when I get older, like I definitely would like to have the experiences of maybe directing a movie or being part of a huge 2-month long film set. Like it's all about the experiences, you know. So
yeah. Well, I've got a good question for you, but because I'm Povo and just paying for basic Zoom, it's only 3 minutes left on this chat. So let's have a little pause and just reset the Zoom and get part 2 of the video going, if that's cool with
you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, thanks for listening to part 1 of our interview with Miguel. If you enjoyed what you heard, please jump over and give Miguel's YouTube a follow, or even on Instagram. Also remember, the best way you can support this podcast is by liking, following, and any of the following things. Between Views on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you can find it. Also, if you know someone inspirational who deserves to be interviewed, please send us an email at betweenviewsbv@gmail.com or give us a message on Instagram. Thanks again, and see you soon. Between Views.